Advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I'm excited to talk about the PBO Act today, and I'm happy to take you through some snippets. The PBO Act establishes how the public benefits organizations shall be registered and how they shall be run. Now, what is a PBO anyway? A public benefit organization is an organization or a group of either individuals or organizations that have come together voluntarily, and they mean to come together for purposes that are non-profit in nature. That is to say, the purposes and the objects of that organization are for the benefit of the public. And so this can be in relation to health, it can be in relation to sports, it can be in relation to poverty alleviation, climate change and the environment, anything that is for the benefit of the public and it is non-profit in nature can qualify to be a PBO. Of course, the Act gives exemptions, so anything that is a trade union or an association or has been registered under any other act or is political in nature cannot be considered a PBO. Further, the Act provides that no organization will purport to be a PBO unless it has been registered under the Act. That means that it has gone ahead and received a certificate of registration. So the certificate of registration is what qualifies an organization to operate as a PBO in Kenya.
What are the requirements for you to register PBOs?
In registering a PBO, some of the requirements that will be needed are almost similar actually to what we needed to register an NGO under the repealed NGO Coordination Act. In a nutshell, they include the constitution. There must be a constitution. 2, there must be physical address of the PBO, and you must give details of the founders. So this includes their physical address, their PO box number, and some of the other details that may be required, like the KRA PIN, the copy of ID, identity card or passport. And also the Act gives the board of the authority the right to give us more requirements if they so deem fit. So we can't tell for sure as of now what are the conclusive requirements for registration of a PBO, but those are some of the requirements that are provided for in the Act as it is. Now, for an international PBO, they are required to also give, to ensure that at least a third of its members, or rather its directors, are Kenyans. And those Kenyans must be accessible, so they must give their physical address. In addition, even when it's an international PBO, if it is being registered in Kenya, it must also have a physical address. And this will be for the purposes of service and accessibility of the PBO.
And what must you provide for in the PBO's constitution?
So the PBO constitution will provide for actually many things, but one of the things that must be there, of course, includes the name of the PBO. Other things include the objectives of the PBO. The constitution must also say that the organization is voluntary, that people are involved in the organization voluntarily. It must also provide that those objectives are non-profit in nature. It must continue to say that the assets and any amounts received by the organization cannot be distributed to its members or its directors. Furthermore, it must provide for accounting. How are the accounts of the organization done? Is there a provision for annual returns? Actually, the PBO Act also provides for annual returns, but the standard must be set by the Constitution, because the only thing that the Act says is that the annual returns must be to an acceptable standard in comparison to other non-governmental organizations. So the Constitution really will also give us, or must also provide, how decisions are made by that PBO. It must also provide how members are admitted or dismissed from the organization. If there is a board, how does the board get constituted, So the constitution really gives us the details of of how that organization will be operational. It can be as vast as possible, but the Act provides for what must be there.
How long will the registration process take?
The Act provides that registration process should take 60 days, and within these 60 days you should have received your response, and that response can be either confirming that your application has gone through or it has been rejected. If it has been rejected, you will be given comments on what you need to rectify, and you're given another 30 days to rectify the same. And if you're not happy with the decisions being made by the board or the authority, you have a right to go ahead and make an appeal against that decision at the tribunal. So for now it's 60 days, but time will tell. Perhaps with time it may be shorter or maybe longer, but for now the Act provides 60 days.
Tell us what's the
effects
of the registration.
So once a PBO has been registered, it becomes an incorporated body that has a perpetual succession, all right? So that is to say it can sue in its own name, it can be sued, right? It can also own property, whether movable or immovable. It can actually do anything that an incorporated body can do. The Act also provides that a PBO, once incorporated, can also join an association of its choice. It has a right to association. Then it also has a right to join the federation that shall be established under the Act. So that is the effect of registration.
Nice. And tell us about the National Federation of PBOs.
Something interesting under the PBO Act is that the Act has established a federation for the PBOs. And this is a national body, it's an umbrella body that will bring together all the public benefit organizations in Kenya. And this umbrella body will act as a link between the PBOs and the government. Because you see, they'll be involved in coming up with policies that affect PBOs. They'll be involved in advising the government, even in advising donors. They will also be responsible in terms of creating capacity amongst the PBOs in Kenya. So that is an interesting part of the PBO Act.
Does the Act provide for annual reports?
Now, the PBO Act provides for annual returns and annual reports for PBOs, but the standard really is not very strict, because what the Act says is that they should be to the standard that is acceptable in comparison to other non-governmental organizations. But as we said, the constitution of a PBO should tell us how the accounting is done and how the finances and financial decisions are made within the PBO.
What are some of the bodies that have been established?
Now, in addition to the federation that we have discussed, there are other bodies that have been established by the Public Benefits Organization Act. And these include one, the authority. Now, the PBO authority is the one that shall be responsible for registering PBOs and registering them. It will also be keeping a register of all the PBOs in Kenya, and it has other objectives and purposes. Now, another body that has been established is the PBO Tribunal. And the tribunal will have jurisdiction to hear and determine disputes that are arising out of any, breach or attempted breach of a provision or provisions of the PBO Act. Mm-hmm.
Finally, how about the solution of the PBOs?
Dissolution. If a PBO wishes to dissolve, or it is interested in having the organization wound up, it will need at least 2/3 of its members to give that kind of resolution. And once that resolution is done, there are steps to be taken, and the organization will be wound up or dissolved voluntarily.
Any other comment that you want to say?
Well, it is also interesting that PBOs, public benefits organizations, are now allowed to engage in commercial activities, that is income generating activities, as long as this income is plowed back to its objectives or its purposes. My name is Mary Mukoma. It was a pleasure discussing this act with you. Thank you.